All right, so we'll be getting you the details as the story, of course, unfolds in Karnataka. Meanwhile, there are some breaking inputs which have just come in from Pakistan, where the biggest admission so far from Pakistan, the ousted Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has admitted that terror organizations are active in his country. Nawaz Sharif has also questioned the delay in completing the Mumbai attacks trial. Now, this is for the first time that Nawaz Sharif has, in fact, in some ways, conceded off the hand that Pakistan-based terrorists may have had in the Mumbai terror attacks. This is for the first time that a former Pakistani Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, has said that the Mumbai attack case, which in fact played out in the city of Mumbai, was something which could have been carried out by terrorists from Pakistan. And for more on this, we are joined in by our correspondent Siddhant. Siddhant, this is a big admission coming in from no less a person than the former Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Well, rightly said, a big admission by the former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. He said this during an interview with the Dawn newspaper. It was basically an election interview, but a question was asked on the state sponsorship of terror, in which he replied that militant organizations are active. Call them non-state actors. Should we allow them to cross the border and kill 150 people in Mumbai? Explain to me, why can't we have a full trial? So clearly he is backing that trial, but we know the judicial process is taking pretty long. But a big admission by the former Prime Minister of Pakistan and a person of considerable political influence in Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif. And we know that General Pervez Musharraf has already accepted that. So that makes two Pakistani leaders accepting that the 26/11 terror attack was mastermind in Pakistan. Big admission by Pakistan happening today, and this happening when the world is now turning against Pakistan. Pakistan is isolated today. We know that it's not only New Delhi, but Kabul also saying the same thing, and even Washington saying the same thing. So three important countries and two important countries in the region saying the fact that it's time Pakistan stop state sponsorship of terror. The Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, accepting that there is a safe haven for terror in his country, and it is a big admission.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddhant. Now, this, of course, is a big admission. And also, my colleague Amitabh Ravi is joining us from the newsroom. Amitabh, if I can bring you in on this. You know, India from day one has, in fact, been accusing Pakistan of being behind this terror attack that was carried out in the city of Mumbai. Every single time that India has submitted proof in the forms of dossiers, Pakistan has said, look, there is not enough proof to crack down on the mastermind of this Mumbai terror attack. But now, this admission has come in from a man who has been at the helm of affairs at Pakistan.
It is interesting, but why was he not saying the same thing when he was in power? You must remember the whole context of the National Accountability Board that is proceeding against Nawaz Sharif. He's been removed from power, he's been removed from his own party. Shahbaz Sharif has come in. Why did he not say the same thing? He would have known the same when he was in power, and there's different compulsions then. But yes, India has been giving those dossiers. The process of law in Pakistan has been taking its own sweet time. There have been various delays, whether it's the lawyers being shunted out, whether it's the prosecutor, the public prosecutor who was changed recently, the dossiers which were given not being really pursued by the prosecution in Pakistan. Pakistan again delaying by saying that it wants the Indian witnesses in the case to travel to a court in Pakistan. So as Siddhant is pointing out, Afghanistan, Washington, Delhi, everybody is pointing their fingers at Pakistan, and now Nawaz Sharif has chosen this particular time when he is isolated politically to bring up these issues.
Some very interesting points that do continue to stay on with us, Amitabh. And Siddhant, if I can bring you in on this, is it the internal churning within Pakistani politics? Is this what has made Nawaz Sharif now speak out and admit in this manner that it was the hand of Pakistani terrorists behind the Mumbai terror attacks?
Well, as Amitabh just pointed it out. It's usually when they're out of power, they come out with these statements. When they're in power, they have a different version of the entire story. When he was in power, he was given a lot of dossiers. The entire procedure was going on very slowly in the judicial system of Pakistan. But despite he accepting that, really saying we really can expect that Pakistan continuing with its policy of aiding, abetting and supporting state sponsorship of terror, because primarily the political system is backed by the army. There we are seeing mainstreaming of terror in Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed is having open political rallies in Pakistan just before the elections are to happen in Pakistan. Few months from now, Pakistan goes to election, and more terror organizations are now having their own political front and taking part in the political process here. The fear is that these terrorists will one day come to the power and create more problem for not only the region but for the world. And remember that Pakistan has been told many times, not only by Delhi, Kabul but Washington in strictest term, that it's time they stop state sponsorship of terror. Well, I'll tell you another fact. When the year started, the first tweet by the US President Donald Trump was on Pakistan. He said, it's time, enough is enough. Pakistan cannot be given aid until it stops aiding and abetting terror. But
absolutely,
no
an interesting point there. Siddhant, do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that Sushant Sareen has also joined us over the phone line. Good evening to you, Sushant. This is for the first time that a former Pakistani Prime Minister who was in power for the last several years has now conceded that the Pakistani-based terrorists were the ones who were actually behind the Mumbai terror attack.
Well, in some ways, there are other people in Pakistan, including Mr. Nawaz Sharif himself, who, after the 26/11 attacks had taken place, had said at that point of time that Ajmal Kasab is a Pakistani, even when officially it hadn't been considered in Pakistan.
Right.
Now, if the Pakistanis want to continue to live in, an alternate reality where they say that this was probably a false flag operation, just like 9/11 was a false flag operation, and any other terrorist attack where there are some fingerprints of the Pakistanis found are all false flag operation. For example, Osama bin Laden did not die in Abbottabad. He had died somewhere else. So, those kind of nonsensical stuff they keep conjuring up. But other than that, I think this is as much of a mea culpa as you can get from anybody in Pakistan. The fact of the matter also remains that Nawaz Sharif was also, quite worried about the Pathankot attacks. And even at that point of time, he had said that every time, because remember, Pathankot happened a week after the Prime Minister went to Lahore. And 1 week later, Pathankot happens. And Nawaz Sharif was of the view that every time it looks like something might start moving between the two countries, the deep state, along with its terrorist proxies, try and spoil the mood. But then the big question comes that Nawaz Sharif as Prime Minister, for him, now that he's out of office, to say that why could not we bring this trial to fruition is rather disingenuous, because as Prime Minister, he was in sole charge of the country for the last 4 years. What was he doing about it?
That of course is the question which everyone will be asking, Sushant, because Nawaz Sharif was at the helm of affairs, and it is while Nawaz Sharif was in power that Hafiz Saeed, the man who was the mastermind of the Mumbai terror attacks, was able to roam free. And despite the crackdown that Pakistan did indeed resort to under American pressure, Hafiz Saeed was put under house arrest. But all of these were superficial measures that were taken. And I'm also told that we are also joined by retired General Ashok Mehta, who's joined us over the phone line. General, this is an interesting bit of a admission by the former Pakistani Premier. He's saying that, look, it was the Pakistani-based terrorists who had carried out the Mumbai-based terror attacks, and also the investigation that was carried out within Pakistan was extremely lax in the manner in which they were cracking down on the terrorists in their own soil.
Well, we know that Nawaz Sharif is in a lot of trouble from the courts, and Nawaz Sharif and the army are not the best of friends. In fact, his removal thrice earlier and the fourth time now every time is due to the army. So why couldn't he take this action while he was Prime Minister? The answer to that is very simple.
Right.
And the answer is that whatever the Prime Minister would say would be countermanded by the army. The army chief is the de facto ruler of Pakistan on matters where terrorist attacks against India or in Afghanistan or elsewhere are concerned. So even if Nawaz Sharif as the Prime Minister had ordered these actions to be taken, the final authority on this is the army. And I think now that he is he's got one leg in the prison and one leg outside, and he's no longer allowed to take part in elections, and is in deep trouble, the entire family, because the Pakistani army does not want the PMLN to win the next elections, and therefore he is frustrated. He is in a situation where I think all the pent-up anger against the army and the fight that they've been having intermittently over the last 2 decades, or 3 decades in fact, is all coming out. And this is no eureka that the attack, 26/11 attack, was masterminded, trained and organized in Pakistan. The fact that the Pakistani former Prime Minister has now gone public puts the nail on the coffin of Pakistani lives and the Pakistani army machinations.
You know, that's an interesting point that you've raised, General. Do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that we're also joined by former Ambassador to the United States, Arun Singh, who's joining us over the phone line. Good evening to you, Ambassador Singh. This is a big admission coming in from the former Pakistani Prime Minister at a time when he finds himself in a fair bit of spot of bother in his own country over allegations of corruption.
At one level, what he has said is really an acknowledgement of reality. And it's also a reflection of the difference of opinion that he has with the army and the ISI. But this is not the first time. You may recall that about a year ago, or a little over that, when he was still the Prime Minister, there was a meeting that had been convened by him, where the army and the ISI had been taken to task for the kind of support that they had been giving to militant and terrorist organizations for some time, which had been having a blowback effect on Pakistani society and damaging Pakistani society. And then the report of that meeting had leaked into the media, and thereafter the army had reacted very badly and forced and ministers as a result of that. So there is this going on, and then he also has a history of struggle with the army when after he made a major move with the then Indian Prime Minister Mr. Vajpayee in 1999, and General Musharraf had then done the incursion in Kargil, and then he had been deposed by Musharraf through a coup. So he has had these challenges, and it is well known that the army is determined to prevent him from becoming the Prime Minister. So given all that, one can understand that his views now are a little different, although in the initial stages he had built his career on an anti-India posture. But now his views are different, and he has acknowledged reality for what it is, realized that Pakistan has not taken any effective action against those involved in the 26/11 attacks, and also that it has supported terrorist organizations. That one hopes
Ambassador,
that with this kind of journey, there's a better recognition in Pakistan of the damage they are causing to themselves internally and internationally because of what they have been doing.
Absolutely. And also, Ambassador, considering, what Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif had said last September, he had said Hafiz Saeed was a liability. The sooner Pakistan wakes up to this reality, the better it would be for them. Do you think the hands of Nawaz Sharif and his government had been tied by the deep state within Pakistan to act on Hafiz Saeed, or was it something a little more tactical than that, where Nawaz Sharif was willing to actually play the game so long as he was in power, but now that he's been ousted from power, he is now singing like a canary in terms of these non-state actors which the deep state in Pakistan has used against India?
So far we have not really seen any indication that the deep state in Pakistan is changing its thinking. And we'll have to watch what happens in the elections that are coming up in Pakistan.
Right.
Because there is a lot of expectation and assessment that the army and the ISI would not allow Nawaz Sharif to come back to power. And they try and put together a coalition after the elections that would be more amenable to their strategy and their way. So we have to see what happens in those elections and how to take forward.
All right.
At the same time, there have also been reports that the present Pakistani army chief has said privately that he would like to improve relations with India, take things in a forward manner. There are other indications that despite the deep state being involved with the terrorist organizations, there is also a realization of the damage they are causing themselves internally and internationally. So we have to see how it pans out. But the first thing would be to see the outcome of the elections and how the Pakistan army structures the post-election scenario and its relationship with that structure.
Absolutely, some very interesting points there. Do continue to stay on with us, Ambassador Singh. I'm told that General Ashok Mehta is still with us. General Mehta, do you now expect, that Shahid Abbasi, who is someone who was installed as the Prime Minister in Pakistan by Nawaz Sharif himself, will he take any action on Hafiz Saeed and the perpetrators of the Mumbai terror attacks?
No, absolutely not. As I mentioned earlier, whatever orders they might give are orders that are countermanded by the army or ignored, if that is a better word. The army and the judiciary are cahoots, in cahoots, and therefore any future, whether there is Imran Khan as the chief minister, Tehreek-e-Insaf party or the PML, and the situation is not going to change.
Right.
The Pakistan Army General Bajwa calling the defense attaché to a parade, that itself has hit the headlines. I mean, what is there in calling him? This happened once earlier also 10 years ago when Kani was the chief and he invited him to the parade. So what?
All right.
The Pakistan army is not going to change its attitude, its hostility towards India. Take that from me.
Right.
Not in my lifetime, and I think I have a long way to go.
Right.
So let us not delude ourselves that after the election things are going to change.
Absolutely.
It's the army that calls the shots in Pakistan, and nothing will change. If the Americans, if Jim Mattis, who gave the Pakistanis what he called one last chance,
right,
he gave the Pakistanis one last chance 6 months ago to rein in the Taliban and the Haqqanis, and they did nothing.
Absolutely. Interesting points here. Interesting points here. General Mehta, do continue to stay on with us. I'm told that we are also joined in by Mr. Arsalan Bhatti, who is a journalist from Islamabad. Mr. Bhatti, good evening to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast here in WION. This is, of course, a big admission coming in from a person no less than Nawaz Sharif, where he has said that terrorists from within Pakistan were the ones who carried out the Mumbai terror attacks, effectively hinting that it was Hafiz Saeed who was the mastermind, validating India's position. What do you have to say on this, Mr. Bhatti?
Look, the interview, the lines are very clear that should we allow them to cross the border and kill 150 people in Mumbai? That is question mark. You are misinterpreting the news. He asked a question to a concerned quarter that can't we allow? Is it good or it is not right or it is the right thing to allow a person to go? This is it.
Now, Mr. Bhatti, I think you're getting caught a bit in the semantics. Now, what Nawaz Sharif has said is that terrorists within Pakistan were behind the Mumbai terror attacks. Did he not admit to this? Mr. Bhatti? All right, there seems to be a bit of an issue with the line there, but this is something that is fairly clear, and this is not the first time that a Pakistani leader has in fact admitted that Pakistan has used terrorists, non-state actors, as a matter of state policy. Something very similar had also been said by General Pervez Musharraf, where he said that we have a sort of a tap, and if we were to turn them on, then the terrorists can in fact go into India and increase a bit of a problem for the Indians there. Meanwhile, we are joined in by my colleague Ramesh Ramachandran, who's joining us from the international desk from the newsroom. Good evening to you, Ramesh. Does this admission by Nawaz Sharif surprise you at all? Because this is validating what India had been saying for the last 10 years.
Good evening, Muhammad. This doesn't surprise me at all, and I'm sure it doesn't surprise anybody around the world, leave alone people in Pakistan or India. Now, that said, this is a classic case of a mea culpa, an admission of guilt, so to speak, on the part of Nawaz Sharif, who says Pakistan did send across terrorists to Mumbai for that horrendous, horrific attack that took place in Mumbai in 2008. But this is not the first time Pakistan has confessed to its or admitted its hand in terror attacks around the world, including in India. As you mentioned, Musharraf spoke about his involvement in the Kargil attack, and now Nawaz Sharif has spoken out against his own government and the military in terms of the attack in Mumbai. So clearly, this is a subject which is going to gather steam, so to speak, between now and the elections in Pakistan. Remember, the PMLN is fighting against the army's proxies in Pakistan, many of whom are in contention for becoming Prime Minister and the lead party after the elections are over in July. So clearly, this should be seen in the context of domestic politics obtaining in Pakistan today as well.
Right. Absolutely. And meanwhile, do continue to stay on with this, Ramesh. I am told that we are also joined in by Mr. Major General Jenny, who's joining us over the phone line. General Jenny, this is an interesting admission. It does not surprise anyone in India, because this was what the Indians had been saying all along, ever since the Mumbai terror attacks had taken place on 26/11 in 2008. This was India's position, and this has now been validated by a former Pakistani Prime Minister. Your reaction on this, sir?
Yes, Mohammed, it is interesting revelation from Pervez Musharraf, but it is not surprising at all, because this is what the whole world has been saying. This is what all the evidence has been saying. We have given dossiers after dossiers to Pakistan, having fullest of proof that they were the Pakistanis, they were the guys, the hands of the handlers were all holding in Pakistan. There have been witnesses from USA who in an international inquiry have confirmed that Pakistan was behind the hand. But having said that, let me say that Musharraf is a very shrewd man.
Right.
He's a very cunning man. This is same Musharraf who had said that Hafiz Saeed is a strategic asset.
Right.
He had branded Hafiz Saeed, who is the world's most wanted terrorist now after Osama bin Laden, as a strategic asset of Pakistan. Here is Musharraf, who stabbed the back of his own Prime Minister and launched an operation behind the back of everyone in Kargil, who calls Hafiz Saeed as a strategic asset of Pakistan, is now saying that if we could have sent these people to Bombay, then why we can't put them to trial. This chap is a political gimmick. He's already a joke of sorts. He will make
that is true, Major General. I'm afraid we have completely run out of time. This is an admission by no less than a former Pakistani Prime Minister, who has now come forth and said on record in an interview that he's given to one of the newspapers in Pakistan that terrorists within Pakistan were the ones who were responsible for the Mumbai terror attacks that had taken place 10 years ago. For 10 years, India had been reiterating this, and now finally Pakistan has admitted to it.